Hey guys, it's Hadleigh Painter. I'm here to give y'all part 2 of my interview with Paul Fisher. Click anywhere on the screen right now to see part 1 of our interview where we talk about his hit TV show, I Can Make You a Supermodel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. What's the hardest thing about filming a TV show abroad?
Oh, well, honestly, the hardest thing, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but you know, to create a girl into a very famous model in a very, very quick, short period of time, you need certain elements to be in place. And one of the most important things is to make sure that the production company supports those things that you need to have in place, because usually it takes me 2 or 3 years to create a star. Because on the television show, I've got like 9 weeks to get it done, 8 weeks to get it done. So, when you're trying to get something done in 8 or 9 weeks that normally takes you 2 years, you have to have a very serious support team, and it's got to like run like a military operation. And so sometimes these production companies that I work with around the world, they just want to make a TV show. They just want to see Paul Fisher being a fucking dramatic freaking guy. I want to make somebody famous on every single show. So, the difference between creating a television show and at the same time on a parallel course to create a superstar and a supermodel for the TV network, that's always been kind of a challenge, because TV network, the TV production company, all they care about is making a television show that people like. I don't give a shit about that. I give a shit about if I make somebody famous, people are going to like the show. That's the way I look at it. So they have their certain needs, which is to make a show. I have certain needs, which is to create stars. And actually bring those two worlds together, that's not so easy to do. So it's kind of, that's probably the most challenging thing is communicating and working with a production company in a foreign market that is really focused on just making good TV, as compared to creating a supermodel. And those two worlds are a little bit different. So to bring those two worlds together, that's challenging. That's very challenging for me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you definitely manage it well, because your TV show is doing great and you're filming more seasons.
Yeah, but see, here's the bottom line. The show's doing great. I am creating stars, but if I had like an afro like I used to have, I'd have lost my freaking hair by now, my mind by now, because it's so difficult, it's so challenging to pull that off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pulling it off. I don't know how I'm pulling it off. And I don't think it's me, I think it's God pulling it off for me, because it's such a challenge to put those two worlds together, the creation of a star and making a good TV show. So, yeah, we're getting through it, but God, Hadleigh, freaking challenging, man. Freaking challenging. Really hard on me.
Yeah.
Really hard on me. But it's working out.
When we first met, you said something that really stuck with me. And you said that you wanted to be a light in the modeling industry. So can you talk a little bit about that to explain?
Yeah. I quit the modeling industry for about 7 years because I really hated it. I hated what it was doing to young people. I thought it was a very selfish business where people really businesses and designers only really cared about themselves. They didn't really care about the kids. When I was a famous modeling agent and taking care of Naomi and Stephanie and people like that, the weight was 128 pounds, 5'10". Now the weight is 5'10", 114, 115 pounds. It's actually going down by like 8% per year. Anorexia is up, dysmorphia is up, and I just thought that people in my industry were so concerned with bottom lines and making money that they weren't really caring about the children. They weren't really caring about the kids. And so, stepping away from the modeling industry for that long of a time, I was really able to kind of take a good look at it and look at myself. And I didn't really like me. I didn't really like what I was doing in the modeling industry. I didn't like me as a man, me as a role model. I really didn't like it. I didn't like who I had become. I really didn't. And so, I just kind of, because of my faith, which is Kabbalah, and it's very, 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 very important to me. And my faith is everything to me. So it takes precedent over television shows and money and things like that, So my faith is, very, 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 very important part of my life. I learned all these really cool wisdom and this really cool teachings. And I just felt that, and my teacher said to me, they said, Paul, you have to go back into the modeling industry and you have to kind of be that light in a very dark business. You have to kind of, you don't fight darkness with darkness. I've always had kind of a temper and I've been this kind of intense character, but I realized through the Kabbalah Center that, there's only one way to light up a dark room: light a match, and then the light goes on. And so I figured that if I could be a role model and I could be light and I could be this beautiful shining light in this very dark business, then maybe I can create change in the modeling industry. So when I talk about light, I talk about, I don't want to get religious on you and talk about the light force of God and things like that, but I just think just something positive, something that's selfless, something that cares about others more than they do themselves, something that's just kind of a, just positivity. And so, yeah, my dream and my goal is when you people put me in the fucking ground, sorry to curse, but that you say that that's a man that cared. That's a man that really cared about us. He cared about me. He cared about my friends. He cared about my family. He cared about an industry. He cared about other young people that he'd never met before. He's a man that cared, and he was a bright, shining light in a very, very dark world. So, I hope and I pray that all you, people like you had, and people like all my clients all over the world are bright, shining lights in a very, very dark business. So one day, parents and people putting their kids into our industry won't be so afraid to put people into our industry, because there's people like you and people like me that are trying really, really hard in our own way to be a very shining, positive light in our industry. And maybe one day it'll light up and it'll be what it's supposed to be, which is fun, exciting, beautiful young people, great role models, putting out the right images, not the wrong images into the world. And that's what my goal is. That's what my dream is. And hopefully one day it'll become a reality. I just got done writing a couple of books actually. It's coming out in the next couple of weeks. One's called Paul Fisher Unplugged, and I do an audio version of the book, and the last chapter of this audio version of the book, it's all on social media. It's, and I try to explain to kids all over the world, you could be 5'2", 5'3", doesn't matter what race you are, what ethnic background you are, doesn't matter. But if you've got a special thing that motivates you and it inspires you, and that you can connect with other kids all over the world, you can maybe become a famous freaking model. Maybe. If you get enough resonation and your message resonates with kids all over the world. So I'm a big proponent of what the Kardashian kids are doing. I wish they would be better role models, and I wish they would use this platform in a much more positive way. That's one of my wishes. But I respect what they're doing, and I respect what the Hadleigh kids are doing. I think it's wonderful. I really, really do. I just do wish that they would realize the responsibility that comes along with stardom, and that a lot of young people look up to them. And I just wish that they would carry themselves in a little bit more of a elegant, classy way. And they're probably wonderful, wonderful kids, but I think that they have a responsibility that they're shirking right now. And I hope and I pray one day that they understand the responsibility that comes along with being a star.
You've recently started scouting role models in addition to normal models, so like fashion models. So how did that start? Like, what are you envisioning for your role models?
Yeah, well, I did this big research about 2 or 3 years ago, where I did a study, Hadleigh. I think I even probably rapped you about the study that I did. And I basically took stars, all the stars that have been, the biggest stars in the world for the last 50 years. And stars, not stars that have kind of come and gone, hit and run, not stars that kind of like were in the game for 3, 4, 5 years, but stars that stayed in the game for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, stayed in the game and actually got stronger and stronger as time went on. And what was interesting was that there was a common denominator between all these freaking stars. And it wasn't that they were better looking and they were better actors, or, it wasn't a better context. None of that bullshit at all. It was, it was the fact that each one of these people who stayed in the game for 20 and 30 and 40 years, the one thing they had in common was they gave back to the world more than they took. So if you look at Robert Redford and Paul Newman and Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon and Sean Penn, now Katy Perry, now Rihanna, and there's so many, and even Justin is getting into it now. The little Bieber boy's getting into it now. He's understanding that there's a formula. And the formula is that if you give back to the world, you're going to receive more blessings that come back to you. It's kind of like if you have a cup. If you have a cup and you pour water into the cup, the water is going to overflow from the cup. But if you cut a hole in the bottom of the cup, you can keep pouring the water into the cup, and it creates circuitry. More and more blessings can keep coming in. That's what the way life is. If you continue to give back and you continue to think about the rest of the world, well, then I believe that the universe will give you many, many more blessings. So I'm a very selfish pig. I'm a selfish freaking man. Selfish. So I want my girls to understand this formula. I want my girls to give back. I want my girls to become role models. Why? Because the more they give back, the more role models they are, the more money I make. But the more money I make, the more I can share and I can give back more to the world. So it kind of becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, I'm opening up a company in LA. I have the board in Paris, which manages models at the highest level. And I'm opening right now in Los Angeles, the board LA, which is just strictly going to represent influencers that are giving back to the world. And each one of the kids will have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. Excuse me. But the one common denominator amongst my kids, or my influencers, is that the fact that they're role models, that they give back to the world in a very, very powerful way. Because I just think when a young person becomes famous and becomes a star, like I said about the Kardashian kids, then I think that they have a responsibility to become a role model. And so all my young people that I manage, if they do drugs and they drink and things like that, well, then I would never have anything to do with them. That's number one. But I only want to manage young people who other young kids can look up to. Yeah. Because I've been doing this such a long time. I just want to be associated with people that care and care about the world and care about their friends and care about their family and understand that what's happening with their career and the fact that they become a star is actually a blessing from God. And if they treat it like a blessing, a true blessing, well, then I probably want to be a part of their lives. And so those are the kind of kids I want to be a part of. Yeah. We're getting ready to do our podcast, Paul Fisher Unplugged. And the podcast is going to be cool because every week we're going to interview a very famous model, a very famous editor of a magazine, a very famous photographer. We're going to allow people from all over the world to go onto this thing called Zoom, and they're going to be like on Skype, so I can actually critique them right there in front of the freaking world. And then I'm going to talk about stuff that they don't allow me to talk about on camera in my television shows. And there's a lot of shit that I got to say, and there's a lot of things that are pissing me off. So I can't wait to talk to the world about things that are on my mind having to do with the modeling industry, things that we're talking about here today, skinny models, giving back to the world, appreciation. I don't have to be careful anymore. I'm a powerful man. I'm Paul Fisher. I'm like one of the most powerful guys in my business, so nobody can mess with me, so I don't care. I just want to talk about the truth, and I want to help out young kids all over the world. What are they going to do, take away my TV show? I don't give a shit. What are they going to do? They're not going to shut me up. I'm going to talk about things that are very, very, very important, and I think I was chosen to do that. I became one of the most famous modeling agents in the world. Now I have this platform to talk from, and I care about young people. I love young people, and so I want to talk. There's things I want to talk about, and if people want to listen, then they're going to tune in. If they don't want to listen, turn me off. I don't give a shit.
So excited to see your new season. Thank you for everything that you do.
You're very welcome. Well, Hadleigh, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the person that you're becoming. And I'm proud of what you're doing with your life and with your brand and the lives that you're touching, that you're going to touch. So I'm humbled to be with you, and I'm proud of who you're becoming.
If you're in the UK or know anyone there,
watch my show or I'll come looking for you. Watch my freaking show, you people in London, or I'll come looking for you, straight up.
Thanks so much for watching part 2 of my interview with Paul. Now here's some information about the app he just launched.
Win a Skype session with me so I can evaluate you to see if you can actually be a model or not. We interact with my cast members inside the forum. Pretty damn cool, right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to set up your profile. You're going to enter some of these contests because it's very, very possible the download that you just did could be the beginning of your modeling career.
And last but not least, here are the teasers for the final part of my interview with Paul.
I kept telling everybody, you don't got to believe me. Social media is going to change the whole freaking modeling industry. I shouldn't have put my ego involved with it, but I called it. I freaking called it.